So here we are at Electric Lady Studios. Very privileged to be talking to the man Michael Brauer, who's a legendary mix engineer, multi-Grammy winning for things like Coldplay, John Mayer, etc., etc. So thanks for having us here. We just wanted to chat about, how did you get from being a young engineer to sitting in a fantastic studio like Electric Lady and with Grammys to your name, and how did you start? And
Oh, being lucky to work with the bands that gave me those Grammys. Without good music, I'm just sitting here all alone. It's going to be very lonely. So I was looking for a new room. And Lee Foster, the manager of Electric Lady, offered me this room. And I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And it gave me the privacy and the flexibility to to move all of this stuff in and not having to worry about moving it out.
Yeah. Did you carry it around with you?
I used to. Years ago, I'd get booked in France or in England by big artist, and I'd put all this in one big container, bring my assistant, and then set it all up in France or set up in England. In England once, these things weigh about 400 or 500 pounds each, and I was doing Paul McCartney. I was back to USA tour, and I get it all there. There's no elevator.
Oh.
So they hired these big soccer players, and they took each one of these and took them upstairs, and I'm like, oh man, please don't drop them.
And was that the point you started getting into plugins?
Yeah. So that was one of the last trips. After that, I thought, I was always based in one studio, but I just decided at that point I'd done enough traveling.
Yeah.
It's, and also there's a point where the artists don't have to be at the session anymore. I'd say it's probably 60% of the time now I'm doing Nicecast and video chat. Less and less clients are here. So I'm still working with the artist. I'm still looking at them. We're still communicating, but they're not present.
Yeah.
So why move?
So when did you, I was joking earlier, but when did you start getting into plugins? Obviously you're a huge hardware user.
For me, there wasn't really a need to be using the plugins. If a session came where plugins were already in, then fine, I didn't need to take it out, because one of the things that became important when I was recording a guitar, I would have the direct signal, and then I would have the microphone for the room and for the amp, and those were the sounds. I wouldn't then give somebody a track and the multi-track and just give them the direct. And the whole thing with plugins is more and more people weren't using microphones to get their sound. They'd have the direct, and then they'd have their plugin that's an emulation of whatever amps they wanted.
Sure.
And I would get that, and sometimes people would send me sessions with the plugins off. So all I had was a direct, which is ridiculous. So, that's the point where obviously plugins is part of the sound, and I should get the file with it, because that is the sound. They spent hours and hours on the amp sound on their plugin. Whether it's me out there with a microphone or you tweaking the right plugin, there's no difference. And so that's where plugins obviously were integral to the sound, the source. And one of the first plugins that I really was searching out for, because I couldn't really find a successful hardware approach, was de-essing. Right from the beginning, those bright S's were something that we always had to address. And I used the DBX, whatever first came out, the DBX, and then moved on to other choices. I think eventually the one that I had the most success with was the SPL, the transient de-esser. And that worked on a different approach where you're phasing out those things. And they all had, they were successful, but I was really hoping that someday there would be a plug-in. And I think the first one that came out was the Waves Renaissance. Maybe there's something else. But we used that to a certain success. And then it was really when your Oxford came out that I was happy, because I really wanted it as natural as possible. And Ryan, my assistant, was one who played with it for hours and hours and hours. Those kind of things I really don't care about. I'm just going to tell my assistant, make it work. And then if he overdoes it, I can hear it. But he knows, obviously, what's going on. And what I'm hearing is something very natural.
Yeah.
And that's, at the end of the day, that I just felt that the this is our go-to. That's our default. When I put the tracks up, Ryan puts it in. It's in bypass, but it's already in. It's ready to go. Or maybe it's at its most minimal setting. And then, once he sees that I'm mixing and the vocals, I've EQ'd them, everything's are going on, he'll automatically come in here, and then he'll just tweak. He'll tweak. And then, and again, if some certain sections need way less and others need way more, he automates it. It makes it so easy.
So you use it primarily because it's natural sounding?
Yeah, I mean, it can be to whatever you want. I've also used it on, I think I've used it on acoustic guitars sometimes too, to get rid of some of the extra noises and stuff. But primarily, it's for vocals, and I'll put it across the lead, the doubles, the backing vocals. It's just there. This is a tool more than a sound. The sound is already there. I don't want it to get in the way of the sound. So it's very transparent. It just does the job that I want it, which is, I want it to be able to get bright over here, but I don't want the S's to stand out too much. And I don't want them to be squashed in a way that sounds unnatural. So the Oxford is really good at that.
What we'll do is, since we know, this is analyzed, this has done most of the work for us and determined where those S's are, we'll usually, bring that down, so that's doing a lot of work, and then we'll start blending in the wet dry to taste at that point. So we'll start bringing up until that. So we get the mixture of the completely attenuated signal and then the dry signal, and that we find that that's a really natural way to do it, rather than, you're not losing all the top end every time an S hits or anything like that.
Could leave before the morning comes.
So show me the wet dry blend.
So here's if it were dry again,
No shame
and then
to run.
we'll just creep that in, and then so if we were to go all the way,
Every sun is gone.
then you can really start hearing it
Taking a long walk.
duck everything down. Really what it's doing is it's attenuating the entire signal when that S hits, which would be overkill obviously if it was at 100%, so we usually leave it at, somewhere around the teens. Generally we don't hit like 20%.
Interesting.
And you got no more tears to cry.
And you don't set the trigger the trigger is band, but you're compressing all the audio
Yes.
rather than just what's inside the band.
Yeah, generally for this method, because we're not keeping it, if we were keeping it at 100%, we'd only want to be triggering that band.
Sure.
But since we're doing the wet dry,
Yeah.
we just have it compressing everything. And then we have usually the threshold a little bit on overkill for that reason, that you want it to be really working.
Really caught between a rock
Cool.
and a lost and lonely
Different way of doing it to what I've seen.
All I know is, as long as it sounds natural to me, and it seems like what Ryan figured out is that wet dry approach works a bit better than 100% finding the band. Now, but the question is why? Because plenty of people wouldn't do it this way. But that's what's great about it. Use it however you like. This is the way Ryan came up with, and works for me because it sounds natural to me, and I'm not getting any complaints. And if an artist is specifically, or particularly sensitive to that, then he'll adapt. He'll do something, to smooth that or automate some of that out.
Sure.
Which is, best of both worlds.
Well, we're really happy that SuprEsser is successful for you and you're enjoying using it.
Love it.
Michael, it's been great chatting with you. Thanks for your
Nathan.
time.